Greetings and welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie, a podcast dedicated to the pop culture from the 80s to the modern day. My name is Jason.
And I'm Chris.
And this film that we are talking about today is an unknown to many in the world. But in America, it's a staple of Christmas TV. Based on the books by Sean Shepard, Peter Billingsley, Melinda Dillon and Darren McGavin star in A Christmas Story.
In this modern age...
Perfect.
Too many people have lost sight of the true meaning of Christmas.
Mom! Hush! Shut up, Ralphie!
So now, in the spirit of the original...
Me to you! Stop!
Traditional... American Christmas.
Thanks for what?
MGM presents A Christmas Story.
Ah!
Dancing through the snow.
Uncle!
In a one-horse open sleigh. For the field we go.
A Christmas Story.
Come on!
The movie that pulls off Santa's beard.
Oh, wow!
And unwraps the secrets
Didn't I get a tie this year?
of the original, traditional,
He looks like a deranged Easter bunny.
100% two-fisted, red-blooded,
It's smiling at me.
all-American Christmas.
Set in 1939 in the fictional city of Homan, which is based on a real-life city of Hammond, Indiana, 9-year-old Ralphie Parker wants only one thing for Christmas: an official Red Ryder carbon action 200-shot range model air rifle with a compass in the stock. Between run-ins with his younger brother Randy and having to handle school bully Scut Farkas and his sidekick Grover Dill, Ralphie does not know how he will ever survive long enough to get the BB gun that he really wants for Christmas. I can't even remember where I got that synopsis from, but I mean, it gives you a rough idea, I guess, of what's happening. But there's a lot more layers going on in this film than that. But yeah, A Christmas Story. We thought it'd be really cool to cover this film because it is such quite an American institution, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. Of a
Tradition,
film, because,
maybe?
yeah, maybe because it is so big in America. But like I say, it never really spread to the rest of the world like a lot of other American Christmas films have. And I thought that would be something interesting to like talk about, get a British view of this film. And what I have also done is I've asked some of my American friends if they can send in some voicemails just to share their memories of the film and their reasons why they think it's not that popular outside of America. But to get us started, Chris, I want to hear what you think of A Christmas Story.
I need to apologise at the head of the show, guys. I'm suffering right now from a really bad cold. So if you hear any throat clearances or unintentional coughs, I do apologise. Anyway, I've known about this for about 20 odd years, mainly when the internet broke, which is a testament to how little exposure we had over in this country of this film. I heard about it through memes, pictures, that famous picture they used on the DVD cover of, which I think it was a snapshot of Ralphie being pushed down the slide smiling, and then they slapped it onto like the DVD or whatever. Yeah, so very limited exposure. But you hear things on internet forums back in the day, or people referencing it or quoting it. And I listen to podcasts, a lot of them American, that always talk about A Christmas Story. All they want to do is sit there with, a couple of beers and watch A Christmas Story on Christmas Eve. So I never sought it out, believe it or not. I don't think it was probably shown on Sky Movies or whatever affiliate over here had the rights to it maybe, but I never crossed my path until today, or building up to this recording. And I think it's just such a niche slice of Americana and life that, unlike things like Home Alone, which is very similar, it is almost like pure nostalgic Americana, but done in a modern sense in the 90s, but I don't know, it's just so quintessentially American that I think unless you know what it is, it will just be very difficult to get the vibe of.
What's different between, say, this film and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? Because to me, that is quite an American holiday film.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite holiday movies, National Lampoon's. Just for the sheer fact that it's just batshit crazy, and you just see this slow decline into a mental breakdown of the lead character.
But I mean,
But
that's
this-
depicting an American Christmas holiday, I guess. And that's what this is doing as well.
But I think it's very different in a way where you see we've all had it and we love our families, but also we can love to hate our families at the festive period. When you move out, you fly, you have kids or families, and then all of a sudden they descend on you for one day and it's the most stressful day of the year, and it shouldn't be. I think the difference with National Lampoons is, first, it's very adult oriented. Secondly, it's a slow decline of the main character into a mental breakdown where he takes everyone with him. This one is a very accessible story of two young siblings growing up in America, so it's told from the kid's point of view, narrated by the lead character as an adult. It's just wholesome kind of storytelling. I've had a brother, or have a brother, sorry. Bad word use on my part, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I had memories flooding back, and this is proof that it may be a slightly inaccessible American movie to us, but I had memories flooding back that I'd forgotten existed, of me and my brother on Christmas morning or Christmas week when you break up from school, and that lovely feeling of excitement and warmth and happiness that comes with it. It did its job. It made me feel something.
Well, you mentioned there about how you still got something out of watching the film. You still had stuff that you could relate to, and that was the same for me. You know, when I watched it back, there was a lot of stuff that happened throughout the film. Not necessarily getting my tongue stuck to a pole or anything, but
Yeah.
or like the worst like Santa Claus visit in a shopping centre ever. I never had that experience either. But I mean,
No, me neither.
no, there were more like family experiences throughout the film that I related to. You know, even just on Christmas Day when they woke up and came down, you know, and the young brother fell asleep in the wrapping paper.
That was the most peaceful nap ever. I could do that. I really could.
But what the film, I think, managed to capture was that Christmas Day feeling, and it kind of came through the screen to me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I could kind of feel that atmosphere that I would feel, that I used to feel, you know, back in the day. When I came...
Oh, we still feel it, Jason. It's just a bit different in our 40s.
Yeah. But, you know, I've coming downstairs and seen all the presents under the tree. And you see this in lots of other films as well. But there was just something a bit different about how they shot this film, or how the actors, or I don't know, how it was just very natural. That Christmas morning atmosphere came through, and I could relate to that, you know, and there was lots of other things I could kind of relate to as well, you know, stuff at their school, you know, bullies and things like that. I didn't walk away feeling alienated by watching this film.
No, me neither.
And I never walked out and thought, yeah, that is for Americans only, you know, only American people are going to get this film, because I don't think that's the case. And it surprises me that this film isn't more well known in this country or in other countries around the world, really, because I think people would get it. I think people would watch it and get it mostly, you know. Maybe not because Ralphie's obsessed with getting a BB gun or something, you know.
A time before PlayStations and Switches.
Yeah. But I think there's enough in the film for people to get something out of it.
I think it was wholesome. It was a lovely movie that I wish I'd touched upon many years before now. Because when I was watching it, the themes are universal. The events are universal. They happen in any Christmas household or any celebration household. There's always a calamity. One of the kids is always boisterous and goes too far. There's always the bullies that, you know. And I think, as you touched upon a minute ago, this Christmas morning where it's so chilled and it's so natural. This is probably one of the most realistic depictions of a Christmas that I've seen. That's not fantasy. Like, for instance, look at the Griswolds in National Lampoons. They live in a mansion. Everything's perfect. Nothing goes wrong. Until the envelope comes in with his bonus of the Jello of the Month Club. The same as Home Alone. What did Kevin McAllister do? Again, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy Christmas movie, and much in the vein as Elf is a fantasy Christmas movie. This was so realistic that the parents even came down, and the mum was all happy and awake, and the dad was exhausted when he came downstairs. And I love that touch, because you know as well as I do, I mean, I'm not a father like yourself, but you do feel like that on Christmas morning when you're like, oh, here we go again. And it was lovely. They sat down and they had their little Christmas morning tipple, probably sherry or whatever the Americans drink. Answers on a postcard, please.
Bourbon whiskey.
Oh yeah,
Jack
probably,
Daniels.
yeah.
There you go.
And it was just a lovely moment where they just sat there and then they're casually cooking the lunch. And the themes are universal, but the setting is very unique to certain American cities and life. So maybe that's what made it not inaccessible, but not come across my radar because it wasn't as broad reaching as aforementioned other Christmas movies that we see.
Well, no, because like you said, like for me, I was the same. I never heard of this film until the internet, and then I started like stumbling upon it every now and again of A Christmas Story. And I'm like, what is this film? It's, and then finding out it's come out in the early 80s. And I'm like, why have I not seen this film? Why have I never heard of this film before? I can't remember how long ago it was now. 10 years ago, maybe I watched it. And 10 years ago, I walked away and I was like, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I rewatched it for this episode because I think I walked away with a little bit more appreciation for it. I think I didn't appreciate everything about the film back then that I did now. It still kind of blew me away that this American Christmas film that had been around for like 20 years, I didn't even know about it, and it was it was just a bit crazy.
Well, it's 41 years now, Jason.
Well, I mean, like 20. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I mean, 20 years when you first watched it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I think they could have got away with not doing it, but I'm really glad that they did, and that was kind of like the adult Ralphie, which was voiced by the author of the books that it was based upon, Jean Shepherd. I really liked the narration, and I really liked the way in which they did it in this film, and I think that gave it some real originality.
I think the way the books are structured as well, it's like a reminiscing diary entry format. Like, this happened on this, whatever. So, and it's was the Wonder Years out at this point in the 80s?
It's possible. I don't know off the top of my head.
That might be late 80s, actually, thinking about it. And the Wonder Years, I grew up watching occasionally. Again, it was always on, but I never sought it out. And it's a very similar concept where the older version would narrate past events as you're watching them, and almost as if you're in their memory. And that was one of my favourite moments, was the fourth wall break when he's in the bathroom. I didn't see the fourth wall break coming because it was a lovely, like, naturally narrated way of talking about his life, and then the fourth wall break in the bathroom, looks at the camera, smiles, yeah, we got this. And I was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
Is it? And the narration kind of works in a bookended way. Because I think if you watched it without narration as well, like, for instance, again, one of my favourite running gags in the whole movie is the dogs hate everyone on the estate apart from his dad.
Mm.
But his dad hates the dogs. And I've had friends who are allergic to cats and hate cats, but they're cat whisperers and they always come over to them. And I love that gag all the way through where they're just, goading him all the time on the porch and going. I don't think that would have worked without a narration.
Yeah.
Because it needs to set that up. I don't know. It's a very different way of presenting it, because I think the film loses a bit of structure without that. Also, it makes it more accessible for British people as well. The narration really does.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I think it's a great ingredient in the film. I just thought, there are instances where I thought, I wonder if that narration wasn't there, whether that would still work or not. And I think in some instances it did, and then in some instances it didn't. Like you say, but I did like it. I thought it was good, a good inclusion in the film in general, and I liked the way in which it wasn't just like, sometimes it wasn't just a block of narration and then they got on, which happened mostly. But I mean, there were some instances like where he would say something would happen on screen, and then he'd say another line, and then they would then carry on in the scene again. So there was kind of like that backwards and forwards between what you were seeing on the screen and what you was hearing from the narration. I did quite like that as well. That it just kind of showed that there was a little bit of thought put into the narration, more so than you would expect.
It also adds a little bit of emotional punch as well, because you're hearing it from the author who's watching his creation be televised. So maybe you've got that lovely energy from that. I don't know. It's a weird one to think what this film would be like without the narration. I guarantee someone has done an edit without the narration. You just know that's happened.
I am pretty sure that there's
And
something
I'm
out
not
there
going
like
down that rabbit hole either. I think the plot is one of those wafer thin plots that you'd see in a TV episode. Again, like a show like The Wonder Years or Happy Days or something stupid like that. Like Happy Days was more of a broader, older audience, wasn't it? It's just a kid who wants a BB gun, and he's part of a BB gun circle at school, like trying to get who's going to get the gun. But plot-wise, I think it's just a kid who dreams about something and then it finally comes true, even though he thinks it's not going to, and it still happens in the end because it's a Christmas movie.
I need to say something, right? And I watched, but only last night. So we watched 8-Bit Christmas. Have you seen that, Chris?
No.
This is also set in the late 80s, and it's about this kid who really wants a Nintendo Entertainment System. And so it's about how he and his group of friends are going to try and own a Nintendo Entertainment System. And I didn't realize, right, 8-Bit Christmas is literally copying a Christmas story. And my brain is now muddling the two together a little bit, because like it's so 8-Bit Christmas is so much like a Christmas story. It is a bit uncanny. But yeah, I just couldn't believe like the similarities between the two. It was quite weird that I'd watched that film only the night before and then watched A Christmas Story, and I was like, whoa, these are really similar films. Well, what I think we'll do is we'll jump into some of the voicemails that we've been kindly sent from our American friends. And we're going to take a listen to, I've got 3, so we're going to take a listen to them and then we can have a little reaction after each one. The first one I'm going to play is from Seth. He is a podcaster and host of the Coopercast, and he also runs the All N Media YouTube channel. Yeah, he was very kind enough to send in a voicemail. So let's take a listen to hear what he had to say about A Christmas Story.
Hey there, Wolfie friends. Seth here from All In Media and Carpool Gaming and a bunch of stuff. So A Christmas Story. This is an interesting one. Truth be told, not a movie that I have a lot of personal love or fondness for. I've probably seen this movie over a dozen times in my life because it's one that my parents and my grandparents love. It's one that always kind of seemed to find its way onto the TV around Christmas time. And I think for that generation, this movie has a lot of nostalgia and a lot of it's undeniably an iconic piece of Americana, right? Which I think is kind of part of why this has been such a staple in American households around the holidays, is because it's representative of a time when America was, less of a garbage truck on fire. It's representative of kind of a simpler time, a pretty nostalgic time. Isn't this movie set in like the 40s or something like that? It's a very kind of like vintage, kind of as like 40s, 50s, 60s, like this kind of era that, these generations are nostalgic for. And that stuff definitely bled its way into culture. You see like the pantyhose leg lampshade all over the place. You would know immediately where it's from. The Red Ryder BB gun. I can't tell you how many times I heard "you'll shoot your eye out, kid" when I was growing up. And, it's something I think about. There's a movie that came out a few years ago called 8-Bit Christmas, which I really enjoyed, but that was kind of that for me. It's about getting an NES, and it's about growing up in like the late 80s and stuff, and it's about, even it's set in Chicago, which is where I grew up, so like that was a very, like 8-Bit Christmas literally felt like my childhood, and if I showed that to my kids or my grandkids, they'd probably be like, okay, you know what I mean? So while it's not a movie that's ever really resonated with me, I can't deny how iconic, as just a piece of like American, like nostalgic kind of 40s, 50s diner, kind of Americana that movie is. And it's special to a lot of people, and I can totally see why. So I get it. And us Americans, we will die on the hill for A Christmas Story regardless of anything else. So I guess that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's not one that finds its way onto the TV or anything here in my house for the holidays necessarily. I'd much rather watch a Muppet Christmas Carol or something like that. But hey, I respect it all the same. You do you, however you want to celebrate the holidays. So thanks for inviting me to send in a little something for this. Happy holidays, guys.
I'm glad you decided to play these like near the top of the show, because it gives me and you context of Americans' reactions to this. So,
But what did you think of Seth's words?
again, they're quite honest. Again, there's a lot of Americans that have an attachment to this, but also apparently some that have seen it many, many times but have no attachment to it. But I think that comes from setting it in the late 30s, where it's the boomer generation. Or is that the boomer generation? 40s and 50s? Yeah, I think it is. Where it's like something is made today, but is aimed totally at nostalgia for a different generation. And I think maybe that hurt it in the 80s, because, I don't know, you didn't really want to watch a movie set in the 30s about Christmas, did you?
I don't know, like,
It's weird.
but isn't that the same now for us watching a film based in the 90s?
But we grew up with them. So when they make a movie set in the 90s or the 80s, we swarm there because that's our era. That's the nostalgia for. But my nieces wouldn't.
No, not at all. But maybe when they were making it originally, they were aiming for the people that grew up in the 40s, late 30s, 40s, you know, especially before wartime as well. It was just on the brink, wasn't it, of the
a couple
Second
of years
World
away,
War.
I think.
You know, so you have that kind of pocket as well of like before the world kind of changed, before the war.
Yeah.
As well, I guess, from where it's set.
Maybe.
It has that kind of sentimentality as well.
I've just null and voided my entire sentence a minute ago, because I'm a big fan of that 70s show. And that was made for an older generation who, when that debuted in the late 90s, early thousands, the target audience that would watch it for nostalgia were already in their 50s at that point, who were teenagers in the 70s. But I think what drew me to that show was the cast and the way it was done almost off the cuff. It was so natural. It was so, like, they kept breaking character, they kept it in there. And then I look at shows like Young Sheldon. Would people watch Young Sheldon without watching The Big Bang Theory first? Did The Big Bang Theory create that audience first to then tune into that film? So, again, making period sitcoms and films, and I don't know, it's a weird one to figure out and nail on the head. It's like, for instance, if they made a movie based in the early 90s when I was forming my current loves and obsessions, I'd be straight there. Because that means something to me. So, I don't know. It's weird to get, isn't it, Jason? It's such a, I don't know. I'm actually speechless after hearing, like, how you just assume that this is an American thing that everyone loves in America, and it turns out, actually, no, they can watch it hundreds of times and not remember any of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, don't forget, this is a film that they literally showed 24 hours. The film finishes, they play it straight away. You know, it's on a loop for like 24, 48 hours on a channel in America.
That's crazy.
You know, it's that much of a big thing. I would never imagine, I don't know, Nativity with David Tennant.
Yeah. Again,
But,
another quintessentially British movie that Americans love. And I'd love to get context on these, because what draws Americans to British comedies that are so quintessentially British they shouldn't understand or get any of, like the Love for Love Actually, or the Mr. Bean. No, again, Mr. Bean doesn't count because it's physical vaudevillian comedy. So
shall we hear what Brad's got to say about A Christmas Story?
Let's get more context.
So next we're going to hear from Brad Galloway. He is a podcaster. He hosts So Video Games, and he's also the editor of the Game Critic. I can't say it. Cricket. What is going on?
Cricket or cricket? Or,
no, critic.
Oh my God, critic.
He's a critic.
He's not a cricket. No.
Look, I'm just going to let Brad say it, because he says. I'm sure he probably says it at the beginning. So yeah, here's Brad and his thoughts on A Christmas Story.
Hey, this is Brad Galloway, editor of GameCritics.com and also the host of the So Video Games podcast. And I've been asked to share a few thoughts on A Christmas Story, why I might like it and why it might be more popular in the States than elsewhere in the world. Well, I don't know about the rest of the world, but I can speak for myself. And I will say that this movie has always stood out to me because I found it to be more, dare I say, realistic and approachable than other Christmas movies. Not that I have anything against magical snowmen or Santa Claus. I don't. I enjoy those things. But something about this movie was so different from the rest. It was about a family who kind of didn't have their stuff together. a kid who got beat up at school, some shenanigans he got into. There was trouble. There was sarcasm. That was really relatable to me. That kind of spoke more to my experience than going to a winter wonderland or sleighing over some hills or something like that. And so I think that was one reason I connected with it. I also really appreciated the kind of sarcasm and a little bit of an edge to it. Not super edgy, but for example, when Ralphie, the hero of the story, is on the slide and he wants to talk to Santa, and that elf just kind of boots him down the slide, you can see that elf is just over it. He doesn't care. And that to me kind of reflected a little bit of the Christmas spirit. It's just a guy, right? This is the real world, and people are kind of doing things in the real world. It wasn't idealized. No one broke into song. No one flew over a snowy forest or anything like that. So I thought that was really quite good. And it was just really funny. I found that a lot of Christmas movies at the time were just not really funny. They were supposed to be the family gathered around the TV watching something and everybody having a warm feeling in their hearts. And that's great. But in my family, we love to laugh. We love to joke. We love to just, kid around. And this movie really brought that. There was lots of really funny stuff. His brother Randy being in his snowsuit and just toppled over and not be able to get up. And, we all knew he was going to shoot his eye out. And when he did, we just howled. And when the famous leg lamp comes out and we just look at each other like, oh my God, are we really watching this? It was just funny and different and irreverent and kind of real in a messy way. And I think that was really what connected it with me. And that's really one reason why I still love it to this day. We do basically an annual rewatch. And I noticed the film doesn't have the same place that it used to. I mean, maybe a lot of people these days haven't seen it. But for me, this will always be one of my favorite movies just for that reason itself. So there you go. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
So I think Brad really did kind of hit the nail on the head there when he said, this is a film that's not fantastical. It's just rooted in real life. It's rooted in a real type of family. The family troubles, not that they were having major issues, but just four people living together under one house, under one roof, and the things that brings. And
where you got the stressed parents, the dad's at work all the time, the dad's trying to fix the house all the time, the mum's obviously a stay-at-home mum, cooking dinners and breakfast, getting the kids up for school, and the kids are just coasting along. They're just growing up in this environment, and again, it's realistic. They don't have everything.
No,
so the fact
exactly.
that his excitement when he won something, and it happened to be, what is essentially a hooker's lamp, which I read into. If you had that in your window, you're going to have hookers knocking at your door.
It's a major trophy, Chris.
The excitement, it doesn't matter what it is, but he's won something in his life.
Mm.
And that makes people happy. And I love the fact it comes in a massive wooden crate.
Yeah.
Just to goad you to say, what is this? What is? And it's just
Fragile
or something like that. It must be Italian. Although I did appreciate the gag that when it was wheeled in, the T was missing from this end up, and it said his end up.
I saw that, yeah.
And I was like, I see what you're doing here, movie. That was clever. That was, not everyone's going to get that. But yeah, just the lovely moment where it's not the perfect Christmas. They don't get the perfect things, but what they do get means everything to them. Especially when Ralphie punches the bully. He gets his own back and he sees red and he has this fight with a bully, which I'm not condoning violence, guys. However, if someone is like that and you snap, fair play to you.
Well, I mean, you do notice that, Ralphie got told off when he swore in front of his dad. He got into trouble with other things. But for that instance, after punching the bully for that amount of time, there was no consequences at all.
No, and I'm glad you picked it up because I love that. It's just it happened, and the mother glazes over it. The dad's reading the paper after work, and he's just being served up dinner as a distraction. And then Ralphie goes to bed happy, and all that anxiety for nothing. Both of the children actually had that.
Well, yeah, because I really liked where his brother was hiding under the sink because he didn't want Ralphie. Oh, he didn't want to see Ralphie getting shouted at by his dad.
Daddy's going to kill Ralphie.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes.
And I think this is what Brad was trying to say a minute ago, was that I loved how the mum, and it was like the eating scene as well, where the mum was just didn't tell him to get out from under the sink.
No.
She was like, here's a glass of milk, and then shut the door and left him in there. And I thought, and even that eating scene, where they said they were having trouble getting the younger brother to eat. So, you know, the dad being the dad, and it's exactly what I would have done. Where I would have gone, just eat your food. You know, I'm looking at it in a male way, you know, and like the mum comes in and, you know, starts doing the whole how do pigs eat and stuff like that. and you know, he then therefore starts eating his food like a pig and straight from the plate, no cutlery. And I think those two kind of things are just like the perfect example of what Brad was trying to say, where it's just so rooted in real life that's how so many people in America kind of connected with it. But I see that, and I connected with it as well, you know, here as well. So
I love that because I've seen that with my in-laws with their kids, and it's very similar where just like chaos just unfolds and you're just sitting there and you're the innocent bystander. You're like, what is going on right now? What is going to happen? And then something so normal and like you said, passing the glass of milk under the sink, and it's just just chill out, have your moment there. It's fine. Just come out when you're ready.
But to me, I think me being, I don't know, like I would be like, get out from under the sink, will you? You don't need to be under the sink. You're just being silly.
But then,
you know,
the child does need to be under the sink because that's where he feels safe and happy, and he can ride out the anxiety.
But you know, if the dad saw the kid under the sink in the film, he would have
say,
told him
"Get
to
the hell
get out from under the sink."
Yeah.
So,
get the hell out from under the sink.
So, but that's what I liked about it. Like, because I've got kids and they're grown up now, well, mostly grown up. You know, it was very relatable. Like, this is exactly how it would have played out in my house.
Yeah.
So, So I think Brad was onto something there, as you know, where it's just so rooted in the dynamics of a normal family. You know, and there is no flying snowmen or Santa Clauses or anything like that, you know. Well, obviously we see Santa Claus, but you know, it's a department store Santa. You know, it's not the real one. Some
horrible,
kind of
nasty department store Santa. Yeah. That's not as friendly as Richard Attenborough.
No, and like what Brad said in there as well about that scene, you know, and like when he's talking about it, I thought he was going to say something like, "Oh, well, that's what normally happens in a Santa grotto in America," you know. But like that whole scene, I was like, I really just want you to, all these people, I just want to punch them in the face because they were being horrible to the kids.
But it's a production line, isn't it? Like any shopping centre or mall Santa's the same. Went to a bigger town yesterday, they had a Santa's grotto. They were doing their seasonal jobs.
But you're being paid to, you know, be nice and patient.
Yeah.
And like, but I like the way how they filmed that scene because, like, you know, with the camera right in the face of the Santa Claus and made it all really weird, and you kind of got what they were trying to bring across.
From the kid's point of view. You see the big nose coming towards you, and then you hear the shouty voice, everything, the energy, and then you just go into, you know, fear mode, I guess, because you're scared. You're a kid, you don't know what's going on.
All right, we've got one more clip to play, and that is from Matt. He is another podcaster. He hosts Critical Diversions, and he also hosts and produces Bit Harmony, which is a video game music podcast. Definitely worth a listen. They do go long. Their episodes do average 3 to 4 hours, but they're very interesting and informative listens. So yeah, you should definitely go and check those podcasts out. And Matt is also a writer for So Many Games as well. So you'll find lots of his reviews for indie video games over on that website. Let's hear what Matt had to say about A Christmas Story.
Hey, this is Matt, one half of the Bit Harmony podcast crew. Jason asked if I would be willing to call in and give my perspective on A Christmas Story as an American. I think he was specifically asking why, if I could give a reasoning for why it's popular in America and not elsewhere. I think that's for a few reasons, right? I don't know when VCRs started blowing up outside of America. I would assume that they blew up in America first, because a lot of that media stuff tends to do that. My understanding is A Christmas Story came out on VHS, like right when the VCR boom was really going off in America, because I look back and I think to all my relatives or like friends, family members, and like everyone had a copy of this movie, which is already kind of interesting. From like a more filmmaking aspect, I think it's because this is one of the first movies that kind of portrayed Christmas in a more realistic way. And I mean that as in, it's way more capital focused. It's way more selfish. It's way more cynical. And that just feels more realistic, right? Like the whole movie is from the perspective of a kid that just wants a dumb BB gun for Christmas. And that is his only real goal throughout the movie. I think that's a fun setup. And again, you compare that to stuff like Miracle on 34th Street and whatever big Christmas movies had come before. And it doesn't feel saccharine. What's interesting is I think now the movie does kind of feel saccharine, but I don't know if that's just like the times are getting more and more bleak and cynical. Well, okay, I do know that the times are getting more bleak and cynical. I can also attest that even though the movie takes place, 40-something years before I was even born, it does feel like a pretty accurate portrayal of like a middle-class family in Midwest America. I think the movie takes place in Ohio. I don't know why, but everything coming out of America revolves around Ohio. I don't know but that's accurate to my experience as an American. Lastly, maybe the most important part as to why it's so big is that every Christmas Eve and into Christmas it airs for 24 hours on, used to be TNT and then it was TBS. They're both owned by the same person. Turner, is it Tim Turner? Maybe, I don't know his name. He bought the film rights to it, and I guess he just liked it so much he was just like, I guess, hey, we're gonna play this for 24 hours straight every Christmas and drive everyone crazy, because it did. I loved this movie growing up, and I kind of couldn't stand it by the time I was like 16 or so, because it's the most overplayed Christmas movie there is, hands down. And then I also look at it now as an adult from the perspective of it almost feels like weird propaganda. Obviously, it's not like harmful propaganda in the way that like modern billionaires influence everything, right? But it's kind of a more innocent version of what you see happening now. Sorry, I didn't mean for this voicemail to sound so dystopian, but I guess that's what it is. I do want to shout out, I am married to a German woman, and she had never seen it, never heard of it. I showed A Christmas Story to her a few years ago. I don't think she laughed once. And also that was the first time in like 15 years I'd seen it, and I think I laughed twice. But there are very small moments, and I think the smaller moments are what the movie does well, as opposed to the overarching thing. I don't laugh at like the dad swearing at the dogs or whatever anymore. Too much of it it's very broad strokes. It's just not my kind of comedy, and that's without even getting into the ending, which is like super racist, right? Like, it's pretty bad. But the things I really still liked about the movie were two little moments. I think when Flick, is that the kid's name, when his tongue is stuck to the pole, it's frozen to the pole, and the other kids just leave him, and he's like signaling like, hey, where are you going? You have to help me, my tongue's frozen. And Ralphie just keeps saying, the bell rang. That is such well-observed kid behavior. I think that's easily the best writing in the entire movie is, well, the bell rang. Of course I'm going to leave you here to maybe die. Very, very good. Also, I like the little brother Randy and the mom sticking so many layers on him that he can't bend his arms at all. Those are the moments in the movie that I think are still cute and fun and well done. But the rest of it, not so much. Anyway, thanks for giving me the time to talk about A Christmas Story. Bye-bye.
First off, I need to give a correction. Matt did send a message after he sent this and said it's not Tim Turner, like he said in there, but Ted Turner. So he did send that correction, which I needed to bring to your attention before we move any further. But I liked what he said about right at the beginning about the VCRs and the VHSs. I mean, that probably did have a lot to do, a lot,
Yeah.
probably did have an impact on the film a lot and the zeitgeist, of A Christmas Story, And he's right, early 80s, VHS, Betamax, and all, was all kicking off. So, if that being the new fad, then everybody was probably, like you said, everyone he knew pretty much had a copy of A Christmas Story in VHS. So
Yeah, VHS comes out and everyone starts recording it off the TV and then distributing it as bootleg copies, and then it becomes this, have you seen this, have you seen this? And then it becomes this viral thing. Before viral things were a thing, well, they always have been a thing, but yeah, maybe thinking about it, it didn't even occur to me about the boom of VHS in the early 80s, late 70s. It's quite fascinating.
And I think we've already kind of said it a little bit, but like we were talking about the fantastical, with movable snowmen or real life snowmen or talking reindeers or anything like that. But also like where he said about Miracle on 34th Street, even so, like Miracle on 34th Street is like set in the real world and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't a lot of fantasticalness about it, but there is a difference in that it's still it's very.
There's a tonal difference. It's different in tone, I think.
It's very, I don't know, is schwarmy a word?
Yeah,
I don't know.
But then at the end of Miracle on 34th Street, is he Santa or is he not? Because there's slight magic involved, but it all depends on your point of view.
Yeah, I guess. Then there is that point to it as well, I guess. So that was quite interesting as well on how A Christmas Story tackles, a family Christmas.
Yeah, but I totally agree with him that, a lot of the comedy wasn't for me because I think it's so rooted in American culture that one of the only few bits that I laughed at, well, not laughed, but kind of like grinned at, was the fourth wall break in the bathroom after he'd shot himself in the face, because it was so unexpected. And it was just like, oh, okay. And I was like, I laughed more for the fact that how ballsy that was to do that, for them to acknowledge the audience of the film and the book, I guess. And it was quite a sweet little moment. When he brought up about why did they all run in to the school because the bell rang. You're all trained from an early age, literally trained like dogs to respond to gestures, noises, and certain times. So they don't question why they're running, but the bell rang. You got to be in the classroom in the line, or else you'll get detention or wrapped on the knuckles or something. So
I kind of like what he was saying about the propaganda dystopian side of it. I mean, is that, I don't know, it's interesting. Like when I watch it, I didn't think about that at all. But is there a case for that in here?
I didn't pick up on anything like that. And then again, I wasn't looking for it. So
no.
My brain didn't register anything like that. Like, 'cause he talks about dystopian being the context of his little review there about modern day and where it's going for everyone. But I didn't pick up on any of the propaganda, and any listeners who are calling or shouting at their speakers right now, going like, "Did you not pick up on that?" Please just comment on one of our socials, because I didn't get any message like that, other than the obvious things being the bullies always chasing the kids to and from school, and then finally the bullies get their comeuppance where Ralphie goes, balls to the wall on one of them. Again, people like that deserve it, and it's always the people who are the bullies that get away with it every single time. I've seen it with my nieces, I've seen it with my friends at school when we were growing up. The victim is never listened to, the teachers don't want to know, so they say, no, it's not happening, don't be stupid, because they don't want to do the paperwork, they don't want to be dragged into it. So as an adult, you can see both sides, but
I did like that point in the film where like they're putting the Christmas tree up and the style was perfect, and like the dad was like, no, it's not right, and he does all fiddling about with it, makes it all bent.
Yeah.
And he's happy with that.
Yeah.
That made me smile.
Because we've all done and gone, that's wonky, like the whole tree. Or one year ours fell over because the stand wasn't opened properly and the whole thing just fell over.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you to Brad, Matt, and Seth for sending those in. They're really interesting and really, really, really do appreciate it. And I do encourage you to go and check out their projects, because they are all amazing podcasters and they produce amazing content. So we're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about the cast and characters.
You're full of beans and so's your old man. Oh, yeah? Yeah! Says who? Says me. Oh, yeah? Yeah! I double dare you.
The exact exchange and nuance of phrase in this ritual is very important.
Are you kidding? Stick my tongue to that stupid pole, that's dumb. That's 'cause you know it'll stick. You're full of it. Oh, yeah? Yeah! Well, I double dog dare you.
Now it was serious. A double dog dare. What else was left but a triple dare you? And finally, the coup de grace of all dares, the sinister triple
really
dog dare.
I triple dog dare you.
Schwartz created a slight breach of etiquette by skipping the triple dare and going right for the throat.
All right. Come on, Karen. Well, go on, smart-ass
stiffened, his lips curled in a defiant sneer. There was no going back now.
This is next. Seth? Seth?
When it comes to the cast of A Christmas Story, for us, I think it's going to be quite simple because the names in the film are names that I have no connection to.
No.
I assume the
Not
same
at
for
all.
you.
Yeah,
No.
I had no idea who. Some faces seemed familiar, but a lot of these kids probably turned up in 80s movies or TV shows now and again.
I've just concentrated on the family, just talk about the 4 actors that played the family and their portrayal of their characters. Obviously, the first one to come up is Peter Billingsley, who played Ralphie. I mean, I don't think you could have asked for a better child actor to play Ralphie in here. I don't know. He just portrayed a 9-year-old. I mean, I don't know how old he was, actually, Peter, when he played Ralphie. But I'm assuming he must have been about 9 or 10.
I watched, earlier before I came up to record, must have been a DVD feature that was on YouTube, like behind the scenes. I'm sure he mentioned he was playing, was it a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old? But I think he was like 11. Peter Billingsley was born in 1971, so he would have been about 11 when they were filming.
It worked. I mean, I didn't think he was older than the 9, so...
No.
Yeah, like just some of his facial expressions that he managed to pull off and things like that. Those are the kind of things that really stick with me from the film. You know, like when he's trying to butter up his teacher by bringing in the fruit basket, you know.
I forgot about that.
And he's just got that kind of weird look on his face and then like gives her a wink as he's walking back to his table. You know, just those kind of, that as an example, I guess. There wasn't a moment in the film that I did not like him.
I again, like you said, very, very subtle facial features and reactions. Those are the moments that sell a story better than overtly drawn reactions. Because most way through the opening of the film, you barely hear him say anything. It's all gestures and reactions. But then what's helping that is the voice of him in the future is helping that story moment along. But I thought he was a great little kid. A natural actor as well. Like, everything was so effortless for him. I don't know what his acting experience was before this film, but...
I don't think there was much. And he hasn't had much really afterwards. He's been in a few bits and pieces, but nothing overly major.
You probably got this trivia lined up for later anyway, haven't you, Jason?
No, I've got no trivia lined up for you, I'm afraid.
At all. So, is it you that doesn't like Will Ferrell?
No, I love Will Ferrell. What are you talking about?
One of our hosts said, this little actor turns up in Elf as the head manufacturing elf.
He does.
Yeah. And it was a nice little moment when I must have cast him and gone, it's, Ralphie from a Christmas Story, and just threw it in there and hoped people would notice. And I had no idea until probably about 5 years ago when I saw it on a meme and I was like, oh, wait a minute. And then I was like, oh, Christmas Story, never seen it. But he hasn't changed.
I mean, I think he has actually been more proactive as a producer in films and TV shows than he has actually been like as an actor. Because when you look at the IMDb, there's a lot more producing roles than there are like acting. The fact that he was an executive producer on Iron Man.
Really?
No, knew that. No.
Really?
Yeah, really. So he was an executive producer on the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man from 2008.
That's blown my little mind, that has.
And he was also he also had a part in Spider-Man A No Way Far From Home. He had a role in Spider-Man Far From Home as well. He played William Ginter Reaver.
That's such a bizarre thing. How it's executive producer on Iron Man. That's madness.
But yeah, he was perfectly cast. I loved him. He was really cheeky, and he just pulled it off beautifully. Next on the list is Melinda Dillon, who played Mum. Yeah, what did you think of her performance, Chris?
Well, I thought she was fantastic. Now, everyone the target audience for our podcast should recognise this face. And did you recognise her at all, Jason, until you hit Wikipedia or the filmography?
Yes, she's in She's in Close Encounters, isn't she?
Yes, she is. And I sat here watching this, and I was like, I know that face, I know that person, and then it clicked, and I had to double check if I was correct. I was like, yeah, she plays the character in Close Encounters. She's been in quite a lot. Oh, and Harry and the Hendersons. That's the other thing I remember her from as well. Looking down, she was John Lithgow's wife in Harry and the Hendersons.
But yeah, I thought she played the perfect mum as well. She was very natural as a mum.
Yeah, the multitasking mum who's got everything in hand. Don't worry about everything. Everything's fine. You worry about your man things like your car and your garage and whatever. Everything's held together fine. You'll get fed and you'll get cleaned and you'll get dressed for school and work. And again, yeah, I thought she was great. She was the crown and glory of this, the energy of this household. I think without an actress like that, I think this would have landed pretty flat. Especially the casting of, you'll probably get onto him in a minute, but the dad, he struck me as a very old school Hollywood type. Almost too old in years and experience for the character that he was married to.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, I don't know if, like, obviously that's her character, like, but she was kind of a bit too much of the perfect mum in some respects.
Yeah, but then from a kid, every mum's perfect if they do it correctly.
But then when I see my wife being a mum, she pretty much fits. Not to say that I just sit on my arse reading a newspaper while she does everything, because she shouldn't have to do everything. We're a team, we're supposed to help each other out and do things equally. But obviously, this is set in the 40s, late 30s. It's a different time back then. Was the relationship. She never lost a rag.
No,
really. She never got
just
cross.
Cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, and I just can't believe that for a second. There's got to be instances where, apart from when she got cross at Ralphie for swearing. And shoved that bar of soap. Shoved that bar of soap in his mouth. Perfect. I
appreciated that moment where she sat there for a minute and went, "Is this actually she put it in her mouth?" And she's like,
"She did, yeah."
yeah. Like, what are we doing to our children? That lovely little moment where, should we be doing this? And tries it herself.
Did you like? Obviously, that part was like, she got. Or Ralphie said like he heard the word from one of his friends, and she instantly went to the phone.
Yeah.
But they had like that manic screaming down the telephone.
Oh, the comedy scrambled voices on the end of the line.
Yeah. Is that where this film is trying to be so rooted in realism and like real family life? It has
such a cartoony moment like that.
But then there were instances where it had that cartooniness. Is that a bit weird?
Again, I think it's rooted in reality, but there has to be that little moment of silly, like the fourth wall break or the garbled comedic voices down the phone, because also, you gotta remember this is told from the kid's point of view, so when you hear someone shouting down the phone... I
suppose, yeah.
It just sounds like garbled mess, because...
Yeah. No, I never really thought about it from the kid's point of view, because maybe that is what the kid was imagining, and that's what we heard was what he was imagining.
Maybe. Are we going to go as deep on this as we did Muppets Christmas Carol?
No. I guess something else like that with their swearing thing as well was like, what I really liked was that they alluded to the word that he was saying without actually saying it. And it was the same with the dad, where the dad was always swearing, but you never obviously heard the actual words. It was all garbled. It was all gobbledygook. And I really liked that. And I don't know why we haven't heard that, or why that hasn't been used more in films.
It's just random incoherent noise behind the door, but everyone, you subliminally know exactly what he's saying behind the door.
Well, yeah, and it's like that scene like where Ralphie's trying to help his dad change the tyre,
And then it just came out.
we hear fudge, but in reality he's actually saying fuck.
Yeah.
So... But we know that, but they didn't need to say it. And I just really like that. I just don't know why more films don't do that, because we know what... I guess, like, if you're watching Gangsters of New York or something, then that ain't really going to wash. Some hardcore gangster ain't going to turn around and go, fudge off, you mother fudger. I guess that's going to take you right out of what the film was trying to do. But, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of other instances where they could probably get away with that.
Which is a very interesting take where you heard him say, "Oh, fudge," and then the dad's reaction, and your brain's like, "Yeah, that wasn't fudge." They kind of low key censored it for the audience.
I did like how they slowed it down as well, because you're like, "Are they going to say it? Is he going to say it? Is it?" It's always a bit like, I always remember Madagascar 3 for some reason when we saw it in the cinema. They kind of did the same kind of thing. And like, this is me in the cinema with my kids who are like 4 or 5 at the time. And like the lion starts going, bull, as it sounds like he's going to say bullshit, but he says Bolshevich or something like that.
Yeah, the classic misdirect of a kids movie there.
But I really like that, how they slowed that ride down and you're like, is he going to say it? No, you can't say it. No. Oh, he said fudge. Oh no,
but again,
he didn't.
It's quite clever on the filmmaker's part, because whenever you say your first swear word in front of an adult or someone like a teacher, you know what's about to be unleashed on you.
What was your first swear word, Chris, to an adult?
I don't know. But I've seen kids, and I've sworn at school and got detention, and I've had my mouth rinsed out with soap numerous times by my parent. I think my auntie did it to me once. But you're excited and you're kids and you hear a word and then you repeat it and you don't realise that, oh, actually, yeah, that's a bad word and I shouldn't have used it. And it's that slow motion where everything's happening half the speed, because you know that Ralphie knows deep down that he's fucked. But then nothing other than the soap. Like, his dad doesn't lose his cool, because his dad would have done the same, and the dad was the one that knocked it out of his hand anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't Ralphie's fault. He just stood there holding it. He wasn't told to move by his dad. Just, there go the bolts. But he must have found them, because they got home all right and the car wheel was put on all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All worked out in the end.
As it always does.
So that's Mum. She was cool. Next, obviously, is Dad, who was played by Darren McGavin. And you are right, Chris, because he is the like weathered actor of the bunch. He is from the old school.
Have you looked at his date of birth yet?
No, not yet.
1922. If he was alive, he would be 102 years old. 3 years older than Dick Van Dyke.
Wow.
But you can see that he's that seasoned old school actor who's been in Hollywood since before the talkies almost. In fact, there's a picture of him I'm looking on here, and it's kind of like James Dean. He's got a cigarette in his fingers and a very distinguished gentleman. But again, his performance again is very old school. But I think maybe that was the vibe they needed for a film like this set in 1939.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was the perfect actor to get in to kind of portray a person from that time, because he was there.
Yeah.
But I loved the dad. I thought he was quality. I loved his energy. He had a infectious energy that I think kind of bounced around the other family members.
It was the beaten down dad who can't seem to get the house fixed or the car fixed or the job's not going well or he's not, but he's always jovial, even when the turkey gets eaten by a group of dogs that have been hounding him the entire film.
Well, you had that whole point, didn't you, like where he like seems to like find turkey irresistible and he kept trying to take some.
Yeah, that was a weird kind of like bizarre kind of thing about that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's a turkey fiend. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that.
But I don't know, I quite like that. And the whole like, the leg lamp moments, like he's so energized for it and like he shows no disappointment. I mean, there surely must have been a small part of him inside that was like, what is this? But he kind of just didn't show that at all and was just so positive about it.
Yeah, I have no problems with this actor at all, and but again, it's that infectious energy. But it's a good little good character and good family anchor, really. Even the excitement of going tree shopping or going to the department store parade and then going to the department store, and
I did like that scene, like in the car, and they're all singing Jingle Bells.
Yeah,
but he wasn't. He was like, ugh, Yet again, I think that might have been me. So
yeah, potentially.
Just being a grumpy old man.
Oh, we're all entitled to be grumpy old men at some point.
Yeah. But, like we said, Darren is very an established actor and he did a lot before the film. He did a lot of films in the 80s, and he was in Raw Deal.
God, he's done loads, isn't he?
But, things like The Love Boat, Magnum P.I., and randomly Billy Madison with Adam Sandler.
Really? I haven't got that far down. Billy Madison?
Yeah, he played Brian. He played Brian Madison in Billy Madison. And he was in The X-Files as well as Arthur Dales.
What episode of The X-Files was that?
He was an Agent Arthur Dales, for 2 episodes.
Really?
Yeah, that was the other one I was trying to think of, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Yeah, he's quite well known for that as well. So yeah, very established actor, but yeah, he was great in this. I thought I really, really enjoyed him.
Yeah, this guy has crammed a lot of credits into such a varied career. I was in Murder, She Wrote as well. Everyone's been in Murder, She Wrote at some point.
Yeah, even I've been in Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, I was going to say though.
The last name on my list is Ian Petrella, who played Randy, who was Ralphie's little brother. Yet again, this character kind of just completed the little family circle perfectly. I don't know, there was something about the way he was in this film. Like, there was just something about him, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. How it just made me feel towards him. Not in a bad way. I was very warm towards the little brother. But there was, I don't know, it was just something about him, the way he played Randy, that just really warmed me to him.
But it's the innocence of childhood, isn't it? He's the little brother who idolises his older brother and just literally just been dragged up by the family. Yeah, I loved his little performance. Again, to get little actors that young to be that natural is a very hard thing to do. And I think they did it really well with this film, especially with a lot of the school kids as well.
You know, like, obviously the famous scene where it was mentioned in one of the clips, being suited up for the snow, you know, and like he can't move, you know, him being under the sink when he thinks Ralphie's going to get told off.
Yeah.
The pig eating scene.
Yep.
You know, like, when I'm thinking about it now, I think he had probably some of the best scenes in the film, and I didn't really realise at the time that I watched it. I didn't realise that. I thought it was just I thought he was more of a bit player than he actually was. He was quite a major part of the film, actually. You know, like, I think you see a lot of films these days with the same kind of dynamics, but that little brother would not be as crucial to the plot or to the film itself, would it?
No, it's almost as if like the little brother kind of drives the bit that's underneath. You've got the main story with Ralphie, but then you've got the interactions between the little brother and the mother, while Ralphie's out being a little older, going to school, getting into scraps and stuff. Again, the excitement, the childish excitement of little things. Like, again, you said eating like a pig to get him to eat his dinner. And the mum just sits back and relaxes and say, yeah, job done. He's eating.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a natural moment where she just manages to crack it. And the same as getting him out from underneath the sink. He'd come out in his own time. Good little actor, I thought.
All right, cool. Well, let's take another little break. And then when we come back, we will share our favourite moments from A Christmas Story and our verdicts and score.
What are you doing here?
Mom said I should help.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, sit down here. Squat down. Yeah, that's it. Here, I'll hold this here. No, not that way, not that way. Go on, Rat Trap. Pull it like this, eh?
How?
Oh, like this. Here, I want to put the nuts in it.
Okay.
There we go. There's 4 of them. And we got it. Right there. There it is. Oh, God, I get that dirty mug. Ding, ding, bang, bang. There we go. And...
Oh, for one brief moment, I saw all the bolts silhouetted against the lights of the traffic, and then they were gone.
Oh, fudge.
Only I didn't say fudge. I said the word, the big one, the queen mother of dirty words, the F-dash-dash-dash word.
What did you say? That's what I thought you said. In the car. Go on.
It was all over. I was dead. What would it be? The guillotine, hanging, the chair, the rack, the Chinese water torture? Mere child's play compared to what surely awaited me.
All right, Chris, favourite moments from A Christmas Story. I mean, there were a few contenders, I think.
A lot of people go for the obvious, like the bully getting his comeuppance was amazing. Ralphie finally shooting himself in the face, even though that was foreshadowed right at the beginning of the film. Even Santa at the mall said you're going to shoot yourself in the face. As for favourite moments, it's difficult to pinpoint because obviously not being an American or familiar with American tropes, there are probably some jokes and references and nostalgia that I just don't understand. But for me, I think I've enlightened everyone earlier, it's the fourth wall break. It's after he shot himself in the eye and you knew it was coming. It was it didn't take me out of the film. It just surprised me because I didn't see it coming. And I love those kind of things where it just grabs your attention straight away. Like, oh, wait, what? Okay. And it goes deeper than that because he thinks he knows how to manipulate his mum. And he thinks he's got one over on his mum. But he hasn't. The mum knows exactly what happened, and he's just humouring the child as he's going upstairs, and he's saying, a bike came at me, and my glasses fell off and they smashed, and it hit my eye as it came off. And she's like, yeah, basically going, yeah, of course it did. Of course it did. Go and get you cleaned up. She knew it was going to happen the entire film. It happened, and she doesn't let him on that she knows, which is another lovely moment, because whether I'm reading into it too far or not, she lets him believe that he got away with shooting himself in the face with a BB gun. But in reality, being a parent yourself, you know that was, you know what the truth is going to be. But the act of turning and looking at the camera and grinning as if we've got this, like, was such a moment to me that stood out in this entire film. And yeah, you got all the tropes, but yeah, it's a little one this time.
I guess it's the whole alluding up to it, isn't it? Because it's like throughout the film about, oh, you'll shoot your eye out with the BB gun, and then when he actually does, it's then about, how clever he was to get out of being collared with that actually happening.
Yeah,
exactly. That's so good about it.
And no one saw it happen. He was the only one there, so no one's the wiser, even though Mummy always knows.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a great pick, dude. Well, from mine, I mean, when you think back about some of the moments throughout the film, obviously we've mentioned about the leg lamp, and the big box that he came in, the bully scene, which is probably one of the best parts of the film. Seeing the bully get his comeuppance. Yeah. I even liked that fan club that he joined, and then he got the decoder.
Oh yeah.
And then he had to he decoded it, and it turned out to just be an advert. Like, oh, you need to drink your Ovaltine or something. Quite like that, because he was really excited. Because being a 9-year-old, he's like, I'm gonna get to decode this secret message. What's it gonna be? And and it was like, be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
It's just selling you more products.
Wonderful. And then obviously you've got the fudge scene that we mentioned, and obviously the triple dog dare you scene as well, where the kid gets his tongue stuck to the bar. That scene, right? Watching it, and I was like, it was pretty cool, like little scene. And I'm just wondering, like, if that kid is just pretending, which I assume that's what he's doing, pretending that his tongue is stuck to the bar. He did a pretty good job of it. Like,
I know how they did this. It's a very old, simple trick that it didn't even occur to me. I thought it was a fake tongue. When you see Dumb and Dumber and they've got that fake silicone tongue that they're biting on and they're pulling it. Exactly the same scene in Dumb and Dumber. But this one, according to the kids interviewed, was a tube with a hole cut in it and a vacuum pump coming out of it, pulling the air out. So when a tongue goes onto this little hole, it holds the tongue just enough to pull it away to give the illusion that it's stuck to the pole.
Oh, that's clever.
And it was just a random nugget of information that I heard before I came up tonight, and I was just like, oh, that's different.
I mean, I didn't know how they did that anyway, but that would not have been my response.
I was thinking to myself, like, there's like a clip or something that's hidden on the other side, and never ever in a million years would I've thought a vacuum pump and a hole in the pole is the most simple explanation.
Yeah. No, it's really...
Whereas Dumb and Dumber, it wouldn't surprise me if Jeff Daniels actually stuck his tongue.
But me seeing Dumb and Dumber kind of dampened that scene for me, because I've already seen it, and I've seen it. I don't think it's a better scene. I think they're just as good as each other. But because I've already seen it in A Christmas Story was just like, nah, yeah, I've seen that, been there, done that kind of thing. But it was still a cool scene. I like the way that actor portrayed that whole section of that scene, with his mouth just having to be out all the time, open. Sorry, and his scream as well. It was a bit like that scream on the phone. It was kind of like proper
blood curdling, like
It's like, whoa. Like another one was obviously where on Christmas Day, and like his relative had like made him an Easter bunny suit. And then like everybody, the whole family made him put it on, and that was that was good. I liked it. It was funny. But that's not my favourite scene. They're just some of the things that just kind of stick out to me. Like one of my favourite scenes actually is near the beginning of the film, where he has a daydream about owning a BB gun, and like he's in this like whole white cowboy suit, and like his family are hiding under the table, and like his little brother Randy's like constantly trying to pretend to eat his nails and things like that, and he's just pretending to be this cowboy. He's got his BB gun, and then like all these bank robbers seem to be coming towards him, and like there's this whole moment where where he's shooting them and everything, and like do they cut, and they're all like unconscious, leaning against each other with crosses against their eyes and all that kind of stuff. But the way in which they filmed that particular section, I can't remember seeing it anywhere else in the film. Like it was very Laurel and Hardery, like silent movery kind of
old school silent movie gags.
Kind of filmmaking. You could see the jaggedness of the movement and everything. And I just really liked that. I thought that was just a really cool contrast to the rest of the film. Like just seeing this kid's daydream about wanting this really cool toy that he doesn't own, just pretending to have it and do all this cool stuff. And just the whole way that this scene was shown was just, I just thought it was really cool. And the way it was filmed was just really cool as well. And just Randy again. I think Randy's my favourite. Like just sitting under that table pretending to eat his nails all the time. It's just funny. It was cool.
But again, it's just like it's that surrealist moment. Again, like the fourth wall break, we both unintentionally picked the most surreal moments in the movie. That it's a dream sequence, and it works for that reason. It's a dream sequence of him being a gunslinger, and that is the fundamental message of a film like this. Is much like you and a lot of our podcast community, I'm a collector. I have some of my old toys and collectibles. I also have new stuff. And to quote Robin Williams, you have one spark of madness, never lose that. Because that, to me, is the message of this film, where if you get excited about an insignificant toy to everyone else, but it makes you happy, and it makes you dream happy dreams, and you go to sleep happy, that's the most important part. Like looking forward to a new car, or a holiday, or a new phone. It's the same feeling. It's exactly the same. It's just, going to sleep with that lovely gingerbread feeling is just glorious, and having that dream sequence was just the epitome of that. Good choice, man. I like that.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I quite liked all the other daydreamy kind of sequences through the film. But what I really liked as well was like when they ended and we cut back to like real life, and like they're all going Ralphie.
He's just zoned out at the dinner table.
He's got this like weird expression on his face of like, because we know what he's thinking about. And like it takes people forever to like snap him out of it. I thought it was really cool. Okay, well, all that's left to do is give our verdicts and scores, and then we can get out of here. I'll go first and just say that I really enjoyed A Christmas Story. I thought it was really cool. I was a bit apprehensive coming in. I know I'd watched it 10 years ago, and I think this fed my apprehension a little bit, because I was like, I don't think I particularly got it or liked it back then, so I'm probably going to be the same now. But then when I sat down and watched it now, I really liked it, maybe because I've gone through a lot of where my children grew up.
Yeah.
I've got a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old now. So I've kind of gone through that whole kind of time period that this film's set in the family, not in like the 1930s. I'm not that old.
I did wonder where you were going with that.
Yeah, so maybe I could relate to it better than I did 10 years ago. Maybe it was longer than 10 years ago I saw this film. I don't know. Time's a funny thing.
Maybe you got it through like LimeWire or...
Oh my God. No, it wasn't that
old.
Or
Kazaa,
it wasn't that long ago, Chris. Blimey. Jesus.
Just remember, there are people that we're working with who do not know what LimeWire or Kazaa was.
Dude, I would never even attempt to download a movie through LimeWire. It would have took days.
Or
literally
Napster,
days. Even just downloading an album took friggin' long enough. Anyway, we're not talking about LimeWire or Napster or whatever else we used to download stuff illegally. I never did that, just to clarify.
No.
Those other people I saw do.
Yeah, we're not condoning people stealing. You wouldn't steal a car.
No. Anyway, Chris, you're derailing me. Stop it.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I guess I just relate to it better now, and I took a lot more from it watching it now than I did whenever I watched it before. And I just felt kind of warm and cozy and watching it. I had a nice time. I liked it. And would I watch it again? Yes, I probably might. Not every year. If I've got nothing else to watch and it's, I'm flicking through Amazon Prime or whatever and I see it, I might watch it. Yeah, why not? For my score, I'm going pretty high, I think. I'm going to go for a 16. I'm going to go for a 16 for A Christmas Story. Chris?
Very similar sentiments. Again, it gives you that. Again, with a Christmas movie, you've got those Christmas movies that leave you feeling a bit empty, like either on purpose or just the fact it's a really bad movie. Or you got those films that leave an impact on you. Like we said at the top of the show, we've watched films that give you a slice of Americana, whether it be old films in the 60s and 70s or newer films, such as like Home Alone or National Lampoons. I'll say newer, I don't like those two, getting on nearly 30, 40 years old already. But the point is, like, in each one of those madcap movies, all through the film, you know it's all going to be a happy ending. And this, again, I came away pleasantly surprised with not knowing much about American traditions or, well, not so much American traditions, but American family traditions, let's put it that way. I was pleasantly surprised and taken aback with the themes and of this film and the way it was directed. And yeah, I'm in your camp. I'm going to go for a 15.5. I had a good time with this. The performances were great. They got their Christmas tree. They got their perfect little Christmas. However meager that little Christmas was to them, it was great. And again, to bring up the guests that we had speaking, we didn't bring up the really offensive Chinese takeaway restaurant ending.
No, that was pretty bad, wasn't it?
But as I've gotten older, that's the best Christmas ever, to go to a Chinese takeaway and eat duck and noodles and rice, because cooking dinner is a chore, and we would I would love to go to a Chinese restaurant, but that's besides the point. And I shall probably be watching it again. If I ever see it on, I'll just tune in. And I think it needs a second opinion, a second watch, where I'm not like, dying on my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did. And I reckon a lot of people, English people listening to this, should watch it and see what you think.
Okay, cool. Well, that score 16 and 15.5 together gives it 31.5. So where does that put it on the board? Well, we're going back to like kind of the territory that we've been going to in the last few episodes. And it does now sit, A Christmas Story now sits just above the Flintstones.
Oh, I didn't expect that one.
The Flintstones has got 30.4. A Christmas Story comes in just above the Flintstones and just below A Wizard of Speed and Time.
That is a very interesting threesome of scores going on there. That's 3 completely different movies battling it out.
There you go. And like A Christmas Story is on 31.5 and A Wizard of Speed and Time is on 31.8. So it's very close on those two films. I think that's, I was going to say that's the closest, but it's not. Because we've got Dog Soldiers on 30.1 and the Flintstones on 30.4. So they're pretty close too. Yep, so A Christmas Story comes in at number 18 on the board. All right, we are done for another episode. Thank you so much for joining us and for staying to the end of the podcast. And I just want to say thanks again to Matt, Seth, and Brad for sending in those voicemails. It's very generous and very kind of them, and really, really do appreciate it. And they gave us some interesting thoughts on the film to ponder over. Like I said, please go and check out their stuff. They really do produce some really interesting and informative stuff. Please find links to all of their stuff in the show notes. For us, if you'd like to support us, then there are a couple of options. The first is through coffee.com, where you can chuck us £1 to help the running of the show. Or obviously at this time of year, especially if that's not right for you, then we would just love a rating or review on your podcast app of choice. Don't forget to go and take a look at our website, or do come and join our Discord. We love to say hello. Links to all of this can be found in the show description. Chris, it's that time once more to say goodbye.
Goodbye, and I'd like to wish everyone a happy Christmas. You'll shoot your eye out with that, kid.
Like Chris said, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays if you do not support
Happy
Christmas.
holidays, yeah.
Yes, I hope you're having a nice break, having a pleasant time, and also have a happy new year. I hope you have much fun, whether you're staying up to celebrate or you're celebrating it in bed asleep, like me probably. I hope you have a good one. But this being the last episode of 2024, I'd just like to say another big thank you to you listeners for just listening to our podcast over this year. It's been a bit of a weird one for one reason or another, and we have tried to keep the episodes flowing. So really, really grateful for sticking with us. Yeah, hopefully still enjoying the stuff that we're putting out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
And all that's left for me to say is that my name's been Jason, and please be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Ovaltine? A crummy commercial? Son of a bitch! Catch you next year. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.